Maxwell Odiri was a native of Ogara town. He had a very fine daughter whose name was Okemena. All the young men within the neighborhood wanted to marry her because of her beauty, but she refused all offers against the wishes of her parents, as she was very proud about her decision to becoming the wife of the best-looking young man in the country, the man who would be so strong and capable of loving her properly. Most of the men her parents wanted her to marry were very rich but old and ugly to a point of view, so she continued to disobey her parents to a point they were feeling very much hurted and disappointed. One day, a young handsome man named Mr. Tutu heard about the beauty of this Ogara virgin and thought he would like to possess her. So he traveled down to Ogara and landed at the market where he had earlier decided to find Okemena. At this time, Okemena heard that a very fine man had been seen in the market who was better looking than any of the young men in the area. She therefore went to the market at once, and as soon as she saw Mr. Tutu in his handsome nature, she fell in love and invited him to her house immediately. Mr. Tutu was delighted and went home with her, and on his arrival was introduced by Okemena to her parents, and immediately he asked Okemena's hand in marriage. At first, they refused, as they had never wished their daughter to get married to a stranger, but at last, they agreed. He lived with Okemena for 2 days in her parents' house and wished to take his wife back to his country, a very far country. Okemena could not think about the idea twice because Mr. Tutu was such a fine man. Her parents did all the possible things to make her change her mind from going, but Okemena was very headstrong. She had made up her mind to go. Days had passed. The couple had embarked on the journey to Otutu's country home. The father consulted his juju man, who played his oracle and discovered that his daughter's husband, Mr. Tutu, belonged to the spirit land and that she would surely be killed. As new mornings passed like early hour birds flying out of their nests, they all mourned her as dead. After walking for several days, Okemena and her husband crossed the border between the spirit land and the human country. As soon as they set foot in the spirit land, first of all, one man came to Mr. Tutu and demanded his legs, then another his head, and the next his body, and so on, until a few minutes Mr. Otutu became the skull left in all its natural ugliness. Okemena became so frightened. "No, I can't come with you anymore," replied Okemena. "You stubborn being, you should have known I am the skull of the dead. This is what you deserve. You must come with me to the land of the spirits. That's where you belong," said Mr. Tutu with a fierce voice. Okemena wanted to run back home, but the skull would not allow her. The skull ordered her to go with him. When they arrived at the skull's house, they found his mother, who was a very old woman, not capable of doing any work. She could only creep around. Okemena tried her best to help her. She cooked her food, brought water and firewood for the old woman each day. The old creature was very grateful for Okemena's gesture and soon developed affection for her. One day, the old woman felt so sorry for Okemena. She called her and said, "My daughter, all the people in the spirit land are cannibals. They have heard about you being here. I have a feeling that they are coming down to kill and eat you up." And immediately, the old woman hid Okemena because she had looked after her so well. She promised she would send her back to her country as soon as possible on the condition that she promised never to disobey her parents anymore. Guess what? Okemena quickly agreed to the promise. Then the old woman sent for his spider, who was a very clever hairdresser, and made her dress Okemena's hair in the latest fashion. She also presented her with anklets and other things to account for her kindness. She then made a juju and called for the winds to come and convey Okemena to her home. At first, a violent tornado came with thunder, lightning, and rain, but the old woman sent it back because of its unsuitable state. The next wind came as a gentle breeze, and she commanded, "O gentle wind, take Okemena to her mother's house in peace. And to you, Okemena, always keep to your promise and remain nice to humanity. Goodbye, my daughter." And in a blink of an eye, the breeze deposited Okemena outside her home and left her there. When Okemena's parents saw their daughter, they became so glad, as they had for months given her up as lost. The father spread down soft animal skins on the ground from where Okemena was standing all the way to the house, so that her feet would not be soiled. Okemena then walked to the house, and the father called the young girls of Okemena's company to come and dance. And the feasting and dancing continued until 8 days and nights. When the jubilation was over, the father reported what had happened to the highest chief of the town. The chief then passed a law that parents should never allow their daughters to marry strangers who come from faraway land. Okemena was counted amongst the luckiest, as she got married to an old friend, and she was so pleased with her matrimony. The union lasted for years, and it was blessed with many children. Thank you for taking your time to watch African Moonlight Tales. I hope you learn how to be kind to humanity as well. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories like this.